Joel, when I co-host Ben, and I'm like forgetting how to do my opening day lines because we've taken a little time off. I am so rusty. But yeah, we're just going to talk about opening day baseball, which starts on the 8th for our team, our respective teams who are playing each other.
Yep.
So
I could go, but I'm not going to. But I could have gone.
I would have recommended you did, as maybe I'll get a media passes for you.
No.
Oh. Definitely going to have media passes for the NFL draft in 2024 in Detroit.
In Detroit. I was going to say, if we don't, then I'm going to go anyway.
Yeah, I'd go anyway if we don't. But I feel like if I can get Hall of Fame media passes, this should be a walk in the park, right? I mean, we're local. We're Lions fans. This is Detroit. So I can sell it. I'm a sales guy. So yeah, let's start with the Detroit Tigers. April 8 is the first day, and obviously breaking news today basically is Riley Green is out for a couple of months. Thankfully, no surgery needed with a broken foot. So he was due to get hurt. You're jumping around like that, making outfield catches like that. You're gonna hurt yourself at spring training. Don't be such a tryhard.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. You feel for him just because, I mean, he's a rookie. So, and I don't, you don't blame Hinch or anybody in the organization for being like, oh, he needs to work really hard to make this team, whatever. But he was going to make the team. He was the best center fielder. That's the thing. He and Torkelson, they were the best at their position in the organization. So henceforth, they should have broke camp with the team. I know there's service time manipulation, all that crap, but they would have made the team.
I could see us doing that last year. Like, I mean,
yeah. This is a year where I don't think you do that anymore. I mean,
because there's a lot of people that are predicting the Tigers to even finish second in the division this year.
Right. Yeah.
So I just think they're in a position where, you see what you got right there already. These guys may be primed for the bigs. Torkelson last year, though, in spring training went like 1 for 38 at bats.
Yeah.
So that wasn't comforting him. He wasn't ready. So. But yeah, who is leading off for the Detroit Tigers in 2022?
Baду.
And he's playing left field. You got him left field.
Badu in left field. Yep.
Then a Grossman at 2.
Grossman hitting 2 in right field. I can see them switching those two. I know they like Grossman to lead off spot because of the amount of walks he takes. And then I'm going right now. This is where it gets interesting. But right now, I'm actually going to go Baez hitting 3rd.
That's what I got. You're right. Shortstop, 3rd.
I could see them going a couple different directions with that. Could see Candelario there. Could also
you can even see Cabrera. Yeah, really. I
also see Cabrera there.
I don't know if Scope is
Scope. I could see that. I could see it. It's just right now, Cabrera on the downward angle of his career here at the end of his career. I just don't see him as a 3-hitter anymore. But they could fool around with that. The problem with Baez at the 3-hole is the strikeouts. You typically don't want that many strikeouts in the 3-hole. You'd rather have that in the 4 or 5, maybe even 6-hole. But if he cuts down on those a little bit, we could see a good year out of him. Really,
it's not even that he just strikes out. He doesn't walk either. Like his ratio typically is in like the 15 to 140.
Yeah.
Like 15 walks to 140 strikeouts, and
he's a very free swinger. He's a very free swinger, and you like it when it's hot because he'll go on stretches or months even where he's just crazy good, and then he just also hits 190 for some months, and you're like, what is going on here? So if he cuts down on that a little bit, maybe takes a few more walks, we'll see. New team here. We'll see how he does with it. Yeah, but right now I got him penciled in the 3-hole. I think that's where he'll start, but I think that'll be fluid. I think that'll move around a lot.
I think, and surprisingly, I actually think Candelario would be the last guy. I think Candelario is like a surefire for 4. To me, he just feels like a 4-hitter this year.
Yeah, switch hitter. I mean, I don't know. When I'm making a perfect lineup, I have speed at the top, guy who is a contact guy at number 2. I have your best hitter at number 3. And at times last year, Candelario was their best hitter or player. So that's why I consider him for the 3-hole. Scope as well, but I get it though. I mean, you want a guy that's going to be able to drive in runs at the 4-hole as well. So, this team's got some options there in the middle of the lineup on how they want to construct it. I think it'll change throughout the year.
The pop is getting better for Candelario every year though. So like his home runs are going, his balls are getting hit a little bit further. So You get a couple more home runs this year out of Candelario. I always want him to aim for about 25 to 30 home runs. I feel like he has that potential to hit that.
Yeah, I mean, he's just been inconsistent, and he's getting better. Switch hitter, that always gives you an interesting, you go left, switch, righty, and then switch again. That makes it a little bit tougher, especially in late game situations for opposing coaches. So, yeah, I mean, I don't hate it there. I really don't. So,
was he second or first in the AL in doubles last year too? So he did pretty well in that.
Yep.
I actually have Cabrera now at 5, and I did initially have Cabrera at 6 and Scope at 5.
Yeah, I've got Cabrera at 5, Scope at 6 right now. I don't really think Riley Green's injury changes this. Here's my thing. I don't think AJ Hinch is the kind of guy who's going to just would have just ran Riley Green and Torkelson out there in the middle of the lineup right away. Now, if they really prove themselves, maybe that changes a little bit, but I just don't see that happening right now, right away at least. Now, that could, if Torkelson gets off to a hot start and hits over 300 for the first, month or two of the season, then that could change. But right now I see him more as a, down at the 7 or 8 hole.
Yeah, Torkelson, and I think he's going to be opening day first baseman. I think Cabrera is basically campaigned for wanting to be a DH all year.
Yes.
So he said in the very first spring training game, we want Torque to play first base. So
right.
I think that's going to be the plan now. I don't think there's going to be any manipulation of time for Torque, especially when you're already losing another probably potential starter in Riley Green. So Torque is there, and then I have Victor Reyes now opening in the 8 hole.
Yeah, so I'll move. Yeah, so originally I had Green in front of Torque, so I would have had him 7-8, but I'll go Reyes down at the 8 hole now. I think it just makes sense. You could consider going Tucker Barnhart in the 8 hole and then putting a little more speed at the 9 hole is with Reyes. Yeah. I actually like that lineup a little bit better, but what I think they're going to do is have Barnhart in the 9 hole, Reyes in the 8 hole, and then move Torque up to 7.
I actually could in this situation, and it's I think it's unique. And I also looked at my opening day lineup is set this way because I think Giolito is the starter for White Sox opening day. So I think Barnhart, can hit lefty. And so I think that's why I like that matchup better. Haas hits lefty pitchers better. So if it was like a Dallas Keuchel decided to roll out on opening day, then then maybe Eric Haas gets the opening day start now to put him there.
I just think Barnhart's going to play the majority of the time. I in my opinion, this can be a discussion either for now or later. In my opinion, I think Haas, you're going to see Haas more as a DH or outfielder this year. I think you'll definitely still see him behind the plate. He is the backup catcher, but you're still going to see Dustin Garneau. I don't love Haas behind the plate. I just think he's not a great outfielder either. He's just not a great defensive player. But I think he just provides that a little bit more option, especially now that Green's out.
Yeah.
A little more depth in the outfield. You just stick him in left on the days you want him in the lineup, and see where that takes you. And it makes sense. You don't need, you're not expecting incredible numbers out of Haas. I know he had a really good year last year in some limited time, but again, that's the kind of guy I think he is just like, look, you play him in limited at bats and in certain matchups, and he can probably provide a lot for you. I don't think he needs to be an everyday or even a platoon catcher. In my opinion, Barnhart needs to be majority of the time behind the plate. He's just the better catcher in general. So
I do want to ring my own bell. I picked Barnhart in our way too early 25. Yeah. I had him as the catcher the Tigers were going to pick up. So I'm pretty happy about that. And I think we're also going to see a little bit more of Willy Castro as like a corner outfielder too. And he's typically been a utility infielder.
Yep.
Mainly second and short. But I think especially with the Riley Green injury, he's going to him and Harold Castro both are Harold Castro can play anywhere. He's literally Donnie Kelly. But Willy Castro, I think they're going to have him in the corner outfields now. And I just think that for the first 2 months here, probably Victor Reyes is going to get more playing time than I ever would have anticipated. Unfortunately, Derek Hill is not ready to go, apparently.
Yep.
So, and I think the other guy that I would have make this roster sit on the bench, we talked about Dustin Garneau, and I think Garneau is it stinks. He's going to be 35 years old in August. So
Mhm.
Garneau is old. It took him a long time to get to the big leagues. And it's also, I think he's there because Jake Rogers is recovering from Tommy John. So I think Jake Rogers is actually the other catcher you would like to have there, ideally. But yeah, Garneau did pretty well for the Tigers in stints last year. And, you know, Daz Cameron's another guy that I thought might get a shout with the Riley Green injury. But I think Isaac Paredes is going to be the other infielder on the bench opening day now. So,
yep, I would agree with that. I think, I don't know, Paredes is just such a weird guy on this team because he doesn't. They tried to throw him in at shortstop last year sometimes to see if that would be an option. He's not.
He's really a better third baseman, actually.
He's a much better third baseman. He's not a shortstop. That's pretty clear. He's not great defensively, period, but, you know, there's promise there at the corner. But you don't need a third baseman on this team right now because Jamer kind of took that over. So it just doesn't make any sense. He just doesn't fit a whole lot on this team right now the way it is, unless he's just going to flat out rake, right? And he might. And he's his biggest potential is at the plate, but yeah, he's kind of the odd man out right now, just because he was the first of the position player prospects to come up, and he started off pretty good, and then he had some struggles, which is fine. But now it's like, okay, we got to see that next step if he really wants to kind of take that next step with the team. So
the other options, I think, for the Tigers, if they don't want Paredes there, then, I know they already sent Zach Short down to the minors.
Yeah.
Cody Clemens was already sent down to the minors.
Yep.
But, Ryan Kreidler is also a guy that they are pretty high on, at least down the road. I just don't think he's quite ready yet either. So, if they do feel that way, though, and Paredes hasn't played himself onto this squad, then those are definitely other infield options, especially Zach Short. He's not a great hitter. Paredes is a better hitter, but Short is much better defensively. So kind of depends on what need they feel they have on the bench for the infield.
Yeah. I'd agree with that. It just depends on, I think you'll see all those guys at some point this year. I don't know how many options all of them still have to go down, but I feel like most of those guys are pretty young. So they got to have a lot of them. So I think you'll see a lot of those guys throughout the year with injuries and just that's just how it's going to work right now. So it'll be interesting to see kind of who fits and who clicks. I think it's really just going to come down to production and who's hot at the right time. So
who do you believe is the opening day starter for the Detroit Tigers?
Eduardo Rodriguez.
Yeah, that's who I have too. But there's been talks about Casey Mize.
Yep.
I'm pretty sure they're going to want Skubal at 2 or 3 all year in the rotation. And I think Matt Manning.
If you go with Rodriguez, you're going to want to go lefty righty, and then you're going to have probably Alexander right now in the 5th spot.
With Pineda not ready. Yeah,
Pineda is not ready. And you know what, Alexander, there are times when he just gets wrecked, right? But he's not a bad pitcher now. He sort of has figured some things out. So I think it makes sense to kind of just have him in the 5th role. And, it doesn't mean he's always going to start. I think they would love for him to be in the bullpen down the stretch or down the road if Pineda can be healthy and can provide them something. But, right now, I think Eduardo Rodriguez is the best pitcher on that staff right now, in my opinion, regardless of potential of Mize, potential of Skubal, potential of Manning even. Eduardo Rodriguez is in my opinion still the best starter in that rotation. And they went out and got him for a reason. I mean, that's why they went and got him. They needed a guy who's been there for a while and been consistent for a while, and has had, big time big league experience. And that's that guy. That's Eduardo Rodriguez. And he provides them another lefty, right? Last year, other than, the spot starting by Alexander, and who did a pretty good job, they didn't really have anything else other than the inconsistency up and down of Skubal, right?
Yeah.
So this year you need another lefty in that rotation to neutralize some of the big time left-handed power that they're going to see. So,
and out of the bullpen, I think Gregory Soto's going to be the closer. Michael Fulmer did pretty well. They get the righty there. Chafin obviously is a lefty, and that's nice to have in the bullpen, but he's not starting.
He's not ready to go.
He's not going to be And Funkhauser is also not ready to go, and that's another key guy. So I think right now for sure it's Soto, Fulmer, Cisnero. I think now that means Joe Jimenez is going to get a spot.
Maybe Alex Lange.
I was going to say Alex Lang is who I have. And I initially, my very first prediction, like a month ago, I had Miguel Del Pozo as the other lefty. But he's been awful in the spring. And I think he's one of those fringe guys that actually needed to have a pretty decent spring show out to make this opening.
I don't know. They might even just not go with another lefty, to start. Because Chafin being a lefty, if they feel like they can get him back decently quick, they probably want. I don't know if they'll need to go with a lefty right away. And
they don't have anybody else on their 40 that's ready to go. That's also a lefty. So they're other than Del Pozo.
Jason Foley, maybe a Ronnie Garcia,
Chase Anderson. It could be a long starter. I mean, I've heard really good things about Will Vest, Miguel Diaz. Brian Garcia has also had a pretty good spring. And then you get, I guess, the next closest lefty though, and he's a potential starter is Joey Wentz. So, and then his timetable is probably the same as Alex Faedo. So we'll see if that ever even pans out. And then Ricardo Pinto and Jacob Barnes are other guys that to look at. And maybe Willie Peralta makes appearance. Like, obviously, he was like that MVP Cy Young Award winner in the last bit of the season last year. But
I think I would not be surprised if they really, depending on how bad they feel Chafin's injury is, if they went out and got another arm at some point early here. Just a small trade, maybe a prospect type of trade. You're not really going for anything crazy. But somebody that's going to eat some innings down there. Because that's right now, I mean, they got to feel decent about the starting rotation. But one of those guys goes down, suddenly you're looking at, or one of those guys really struggles out of the gate or something. Suddenly you're looking at a bullpen this is not a bullpen that you want taxed early in the year. Because I wouldn't call it a weakness of the team, but it's not deep, right? So you've got three guys that you feel pretty good about. Cisnero, Fulmer, and Soto. Yeah. So you feel pretty good about those three, but after that,
you don't feel good again until you get Funkhauser and Chafin back.
Exactly. So who knows? I mean, Funkhauser, it sounds like he's starting to throw.
And then if Pineda is ready to go and good, then you can move Alexander back as a long guy. But
but you just you've got probably a month before it all can come together. So you're sitting there worried about it, And
you don't want to fall off in the first month. You want to build team morale right off the bat.
A World Series or a division is not won or lost in April, but you can put yourself behind the 8 ball. I mean, even the Tigers last year, they put themselves behind the 8 ball by playing horribly early, right? And they finished the year off really strong, but it's like you can't play that bad that early and expect to have any chance, right? I mean, the first 2 months of the year, they were horrendous. They were one of the worst teams in baseball. So you can't do that again. If they want to compete in this, by all accounts, they want to compete this year. That's what they want with their, they feel like they have some of the pieces there where they can compete. I'm not saying they're going to win the division, but they should be able to hang in there with everybody.
You have to expect them to finish third or second, I would anticipate. And that's kind of going to depend on
the Correa trade changes a few things, I think, but yes.
It makes the Twins a little bit better. Obviously the Guardians, they have an amazing starting pitching staff too, but their offense looks pretty lackluster. So I don't know what to expect from them either. They're going to have a lot of 3-2 games, I think, this year. But so let's talk about the probable first place team, the Chicago White Sox. The fair trade-off on opening day is we lose Riley Green. Well, you don't get Tim Anderson for 2 games.
2 games.
2 games suspension. So I think that changed my lineup too a little bit. I think that kind of moves Leary Garcia to probably shortstop. And that I don't know who that moves to lead off. Do you put Josh Harrison, who I have at second base, to lead off?
I think you lead off either him or Luis Robert. Robert's led off plenty of times in his.
My initial lineup had Luis Robert actually in the 5th hole. So.
Yep, I mean that would make sense in the 5th hole.
But now you lose Tim Anderson, then I could see.
Now you lose Tim Anderson, so So, I mean, it's gonna be a little bit different. So what I would do, or now you've got AJ Pollock, who's led off before in his career. So, that was the news soon too. But I would move Luis Robert up to 1. And then I'm probably going to put Josh Harrison at the 2 hole.
Yep.
Jose Abreu at the 3.
I actually have Yoan Moncada in this 2 hole.
In the 2 hole? Okay. All right. Yeah, I can see it. I don't know. I actually have him hitting 4 if Anderson's healthy, though.
Okay.
So
do you have Leury Garcia as the shortstop then opening day?
Yeah, he's got to be. So he's got to hit 8.
Josh Harrison doesn't have experience there, and I don't know who else. I mean, maybe let's see. Danny Mendick is more of a second baseman too.
And Mendick's played short, but I don't think I wouldn't be surprised if he breaks the team. Doesn't even break with the team. It just depends.
Ooh, I do have him as one of probably the more surefire bench guys, but maybe not.
Well, it just depends. I mean, yeah, I could see it, but
who else is your other infielder? I know Leury Garcia is obviously going to be your all-time utility guy, but I think Adam Engel's outfield.
The outfield's deep. So the outfield going left to right is going to be depending on. I mean, you're going to go Eloy Jimenez in left, Robert in center, AJ Pollock in right. That's going to be your pretty much every day.
I mean, Andrew Vaughn can play right field too.
Andrew Vaughn, who's also hurt right now, he'll probably be out for a couple weeks at least. But okay. Vaughn, then your next set of them is Vaughn, Gavin Sheets, and Adam Engel, right? So you've got 6. You go 6 deep in the outfield, right? And you can play with the lineup, hit or miss.
So are you having Micker Adolfo, Blake Rutherford, Ryder Jones, Jake Berger?
Well, they outrighted Blake Rutherford to AAA, so no, okay. Blake Rutherford's not there. He cleared waivers, so they didn't even want him, but he cleared waivers.
I made this lineup a week ago.
Adolfo has had a really good spring, and I like him as a prospect. He's just always been hurt, so I wouldn't be surprised if he's there. I like Sebi Zavala as the backup catcher, so I think you got to have him there.
Are you going to keep 3, though? You're going to have Zach Collins there, too?
I don't like – I think Collins needs to be gone, in my opinion. I like some of the stuff he brings to the table, but he's had enough chances, in my opinion.
Right.
And Zavala's a better catcher, even though I don't love him.
What do you think about Ryder Jones and Jake Berger? Do you have them on the roster?
I have Berger on the roster. I do not have Ryder Jones.
How about Romy Gonzalez?
Nope, not on the roster.
Okay.
I think other than Jones, they've all been up before. Berger performed well when he was up too.
Mm-hmm.
If they can find a way for Berger to be able to play some second base as well as some outfield, then he fits on this team. If they aren't able to do that, if they don't find that ability, then we got some problems. So then he doesn't really fit. He's got to be able to play some second base, which apparently he's been repping at and been fine at. Because if he plays second base, suddenly you've got a backup for Harrison. You got a guy with some pop there. Suddenly it kind of comes together for him to fit on the roster. Because right now you don't really have a backup second baseman other than Leury Garcia, who can play everywhere. So it'll be interesting the first 2 games because, I mean, you don't have Tim Anderson there. They saw it last year. They didn't have Tim Anderson there for periods of time last year, and that lineup it just doesn't have that spark plug at the top of the lineup. So,
so my current lineup for the White Sox would go Luis Robert, center field. Then I have Yoan Moncada at third base. Then I have Jose Abreu, first base. Then Eloy Jimenez at left field. Then I have Yasmani Grandal at catcher. I don't know if 5 is a little – I usually like him at 6, but I think with Robert having to lead off.
Yeah, it just changes the lineup a little bit. It moves everybody up 1.
Then I have Pollock out at right field right after Grandal. And then I have Gavin Sheets. And then I have Josh Harrison at the bottom of the lineup.
Yep. I think that's a good that makes sense. I mean, you could flip-flop. You could go Moncada, the 4-hole instead. I think it also sort of depends on who the Tigers go with opening day as a starter. I know you said
assuming a lefty, though, you're probably
assuming a lefty, then I wouldn't even go Sheets. I would go somebody else. I would go Berger or
Engel.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yep.
Who would you have in the 9-hole then? With that, if you have Josh Harrison in the 2-hole.
If you have Josh Harrison in the 2-hole and the 9-hole is Garcia.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, I totally spaced out Garcia. Yeah. I don't even know if I said Garcia.
He's got to be in the 2, 8, or 9, or lead off. I mean, you could lead him off.
I feel like Lurie Garcia's. I would put him ahead of Josh Harrison still though. I don't know. Josh Harrison's like 33 or 34 too, I think. Yeah.
He's old. He's older. I mean, he's
a former Tiger too.
Yeah. He's been good at times. I think he solidifies second base. He's a good defender. So
I like him. It's just that speed still. He's pretty solid. Your rotation right now, I've got Giolito, Lynn, Cease, Keuchel, and Kopech.
Yes, I think that's the way it's going to break.
It's a good rotation.
I think you could move the order around a little bit. Your issues is I would have loved to be able to get Carlos Rodon back just to have another lefty. But it is what it is. You got 4 power arms, and then the lefty flipper of Keuchel. I don't love Keuchel, but he's had a good spring. Other than yesterday, he got lit up. But so and he's going to eat innings. But he struggled last year, and I just didn't love what he was bringing to the table last year. I just didn't think he was great. So
he's aging out. Father Time's starting to get him.
Yep. But if he's there if he's your 4th or 5th starter, I'm cool with it. I think they're going to bring Kopech along slowly, and see where he's at. But
does that mean they let Joe Kelly start?
No, they're not going to let Joe Kelly start. Garrett Crochet's hurt now, so he'll probably be out for the season. So we can get into the bullpen.
Oh, he's out for the season.
Enough time, John.
Oh man. Yeah, I mean, and he was a key lefty, I think, in that bullpen. But I think obviously Hendricks and Kimbrel are still there. I think
Kimbrel's gone. Kimbrel's was a Pollock's trade piece.
Oh, I didn't see the Pollock news, so that was news.
Yeah.
Okay. So right now you're at Hendricks, Kendall Graveman. I would with Crochet out, that kind of stinks. So I think Aaron Bummer is in there. Joe Kelly probably bullpen. Reynaldo Lopez.
Yeah, I think he's got a chance. I mean, I don't know. I haven't seen much on him.
I have Lopez and Ryan Burr as any other one.
I think you need to have Lopez on the roster though, just in case you got to bring for the Kopech starts that are a little bit shorter, or if Keuchel struggles, you got to have a guy that's started before being right there. Vince Velazquez is also a guy that they signed.
I had him written down with Jose Ruiz, Matt Foster, and Kyle Crick.
Yep. It's kind of one of those things where I think Velazquez could be a starter as well. He's started before with Philadelphia. He's had a couple good years with them. So I think you've got some depth there. You got some guys that can go longer. The back end is really, really good. Obviously, losing Kimbrel, I think it could have been the best bullpen in the MLB with him, but without him, I don't think it's all that much different. The problem with Kimbrel is you had almost too many good guys back there. Now you can kind of solidify everybody into a role. If you want to go Kelly for the 7th, Kelly or Bummer for the 7th, Graven for the 8th, Hendricks for the 9th. It seems like a pretty good recipe there.
With losing Crochet possibly for the year, does that mean maybe have another lefty like Anderson Severino on the roster?
I think you could see another lefty step up. I don't think you're going to put one in there right away. But I think they're going to add. I really do. I don't think they need to necessarily go for a reliever, but I think they will, down the road, depending on how this goes. I think I wouldn't be surprised if they add again, another lefty if it becomes available. You always could use another lefty in the pen. It doesn't come up as often as you'd think, though, where you need a left-hander. And you got Bummer, and Bummer can eat a lot of innings, so.
And does the MLB, they didn't change the rule either on, like, if you put a bullpen guy in, he has to throw at least to 3 hitters?
Yeah, throw 3 hitters, yep.
Okay.
Yeah. Unless the last out of the, last out inning.
Yeah. Is Jimmy Lambert and Jonathan Stever on the roster still?
Yeah, they're both on the roster still. they're both on the 40-man. I don't think either of them will break with the camp. I mean, they're both starters. I like what Lambert brought to the table a little more than Stever.
I was going to say you might see Lambert. He's on the 40, but you kind of mentioned bringing Kopech in slowly, so maybe starting Kopech even in the bullpen or whatever. But
yeah, I think they're going to start him as a starter. Yeah, I really do. I mean, he started this spring, but he's only been up to like 2 or 3 innings, so I think they're going to bring him along slowly as far as his innings go, but and build him up. But I could see Lambert or Stever both, getting a spot start here and there, but to me, they're just blocked right now by the arms. So yeah, we'll see. To me, the key to this team's success is going to be just scoring a bunch of runs, though. Right now, this lineup could be one of the best in baseball. And the rotation is really solid too, but it's when you get to that latter half of the rotation, it's just how consistent is that going to be.
And then this early in the season, you're not pushing your starters much more than 5 innens. No. So even if they are great starters, like you get 75, 80 pitches kind of maxed out in the early couple of starts.
Yeah, I mean, Keuchel the other day said he wants, he's about 85 is where he's at. Okay. And that's Keuchel. Giolito might be able to go a little more. Lynn's always been a horse, so I bet he could go as many as he feels like it. But again, you don't win or lose the division in April, but you can't put yourself in a hole. I think similar to last year, they've got enough talent where they're going to be able to be in every game with their lineup. So I feel pretty good about it, especially when Anderson's back after 2 games. As long as they stay healthy, again, that's a big deal, staying healthy. So
it is already a surprise how many players we're seeing. I was able
a lot of players, even just late in the spring, because it felt like early in the spring you didn't see too much craziness, So.
And it's a shortened spring, so it's definitely
interesting.
Yeah, but we'll talk next
spring though. You definitely hear it every spring where guys are getting hurt. So
yeah, it's the condition, their off-season conditioning.
Yeah.
But yeah, so the 6th we will be doing a full MLB preview, and opening day will start on the 8th for us. So yeah, something to look forward to. Baseball's back, and we will see you next Wednesday.
Sounds good.
All right, see you, man.